But being open, transparent, and honest about usage is really important, right? When 44% of elite athletes admit to using banned substances and only 1% get caught, right? That means 43% of them are lying,
Where's
right?
did that stat come from? Like I've been
Oh,
about bike racing, been a pro bike racer. I have a lot of friends who are current active pro bike racers. Anecdotally, that stat is not close in one of the dirtiest sports in the world.
Ultra and Comstock, Journal of Sports Medicine, 2012,
It's getting
right?
massively skewed from somewhere though, like weightlifting, because that if you surveyed 1,000 people, ask them to name the dirtiest sports, everyone's going to put cycling on their podium.
Hmm.
And I'm inside the loop, and I can tell you that stat is not even close. If it's 0.4%, I'd be shocked in World Tour highest level at the moment. The
Well,
guardrails are so high. Like whereabouts testing has changed the game.
testing doesn't work. Testing doesn't work, period, full stop. Right? Why? Because the underlying, what WADA does not have, and this is actually so important to realize, is that WADA doesn't have the calibration data. They don't have elite athletes who have used banned substances openly saying what their stack is, right? So they don't actually have the data to actually calibrate their tests. And so leading WADA scientists have come to my conferences, come to conferences hosted by the Enhanced Games to say the Olympics cannot be clean unless there is an Enhanced Games because they need the calibration data.
Interesting. Okay, let's run with this because I am I am enjoying this a lot. So we slide into this world with the enhanced games. Do you see this as athletes are going to be backed up by independent medical teams, or is that responsibility for experimentation lie fully on them?
So it's been very interesting over the last 18 months talking to hundreds of athletes. And what I realize is that athletes are not influencers. Athletes want to just be on the team. They want to have all of their marketing, physiotherapy, travel, everything taken care of, and they just want to practice their craft. Um, and so the ideal configuration is something like the Premier League or the NFL, where an athlete is signed and the team takes care of everything. The least optimal configuration is like the Olympics, where unless you're from a country like France or Australia, you're effectively a free agent and you've got to sort of do everything yourself in addition to practicing the craft of your sport. And so the delivery model of the enhanced games is to be like the Premier League or the NFL. When we invite an athlete to compete at the enhanced games, we will sign them. We will give them a comprehensive health checkup to make sure that they're safe to compete. We will continue to monitoring, but we will also pay for their travel, their accommodation. We'll support them in terms of their marketing and messaging, and they will be a member of the team.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. At least I still worry about the aspiring athletes who are trying to break into it because they're going to fall into the self-experimentation category. Now, look, it's no different to, so-called clean sport in the Armstrong era, where we've seen probably the best case studies of how drastic it got with self-experimentation for lower level athletes, to the point Ricardo Rico took out points of his own blood, stored them in the fridge without an anticoagulant agent, and then just put them back into his system, crashing his entire system and almost killing himself.
Yeah, and that's where being open and honest about all of this reduces information deficits. So can I fix all the problems of economic inequality in this world? No, I cannot. But certainly I want to create a system where pro athletes are signed to the enhanced games and they're fully supported throughout the whole ecosystem. And we can create pathways for amateur, semi-pro, where they're supported, where there's good training facilities, where there is great support networks available to them, so that no one has to ever resort to the Lance Armstrong Balco methodology of what is effectively an underground laboratory and self-experimentation. And breaking down these barriers and publishing information, hosting conferences, having discussions like this really reduces risk because we're openly sharing information in a way that has not been done for decades.
Have you seen this study? It's a few years old at this point, where they survey a number of Olympic athletes and they say, if I could give you a pill that would guarantee you an Olympic gold medal, but you die 12 months later, would you take the pill? And they surveyed a not insignificant number of athletes, and 100% of them said they would take the pill.
So that's interesting. So Professor Yannis Basaldes, who is a notable, very notable sports scientist who's on the WADA Scientific Commission, actually quoted this survey at a conference we hosted at Oxford University in December, and said that the data has been reviewed substantially several times, and it has never been corroborated. So I think that, the original survey was made for, let's say,
Comic effect.
comic effect, and has never been replicated.
But it is in the validity of it or not. I can't verify it live, but taking the sentiment of it as someone who spent a lot of time in elite sport, and I can vividly remember coming down Alpine or Pyrenean descents at the front of a bike race and having the thought process, I don't care if I die, I'm not breaking and getting dropped out of this group. Elite athletes are slightly wired different. Their risk to reward perception is different than your typical human. How do you think about that in terms of dosage, amount of medication they're taking, long-term health of the athlete? Like, we obviously don't want to have an enhanced games where 100% of athletes die 12 months after the enhanced games.
So the key to this is clinical supervision. And the principal risk associated with performance enhancements is cardiac. And cardiac risk is very knowable and very measurable. And let's be very clear, the anti-doping system today is not about health. It's not about safety. It's about fairness, right? The fairness is the modus operandi of the system. And if WADA and the IOC wanted to build a safety based system, they would do what I do, which is comprehensive, full system health checkups of every athlete, echocardiograms, MRI, blood work, prior to competition, and ongoing throughout training based on clinical needs. And that would, it's dramatically expensive, right? Tens of thousands of dollars per athlete per year. But that is how we ensure that our athletes are healthy and safe to compete. And the Olympics won't do this because it's too expensive for them.
What kind of athletes are being drawn to this at the moment? Are they athletes on the fringe that never quite made it to top level sport?
No, it is, the issue for the Olympics is an economic one. When you're an elite swimmer or runner or weightlifter, and weightlifting probably is the worst of those three, you're the best in the world at what you do, and you might only earn $30,000 a year. And you're comparing yourself against elite footballers, basketball players, baseball players who are earning tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And you ask yourself, why is it that in the principal areas of human endeavor, like running and swimming, two of the most basic things we do, there is no money. There is no money whatsoever in those sports compared to the American team sports or European football. And why is that? Is because of systematic corruption and dysfunction in the governing bodies and in the International Olympic Committee, right? They are still stuck in this amateurist ethos, right? Including many of the sporting federations still have amateur in their name, like the Amateur Athletics Union. And they refuse to create a system that pays athletes well. And so when we're offering $1 million to break a world record, we're offering business class flights and 5-star hotels, and they're saying, I slept in a cardboard bed at the Paris Olympics. It's not even a choice. It's so obvious that we care about athletes and the Olympic system does not.
Do you see an ability to attract the best of the best across? Like, is Rashida Adeleke going to go across from 400 meters with a 15-year career ahead of her, and the adulation that goes with winning goals, hopefully in the next 2 Olympics for our country?
All that glitters isn't gold, and all that's gold doesn't glitter. And so I think it's actually like very simple. And members of the International Olympic Committee have come to my office and sat here and talked to me. It's very good to have the dialogue. And what the smart members of the IOC know is that as soon as we have the world records, the 100-meter, the mile, the marathon, the 50 free, and the pool, we are the ultimate avenue of human competition. And athletes, viewers, host cities are not interested in a second-tier competition, right? And you think about the Commonwealth Games. The Commonwealth Games as a concept are effectively dead because they're a second-tier competition. They were never able to attract the best athletes. They were never able to attract the best media rights and ticket sales and host cities. And so ultimately, they have died as a concept. And I think the Olympics will suffer from that because the best athletes in the world will say, actually, you know what, I can make good money at the enhanced games. And it is the ultimate avenue of human competition.
The test will be the viewership. I'm so conflicted because on the one hand, I do agree with you. We want to see the 100 meters going in 6 seconds. But then on the other hand, I've spoken on the podcast to cyclists who've set incredible times on climbs like that no clean athletes are doing. And I was like, why does more people not care about that? And overwhelmingly the feedback was, no one cares because he's not compliant with WADA. He's most likely lit. We just don't care.
No, I think that, do you want to be a human 1.0 when you know humans 2.0 exist? And people are proud to be a human 2.0.
Yeah, the if I was to strawman the argument against it, it's you can take so much of, like, the Armstrong hard work is real. The sacrifice is real. The training camps are real. The altitude is real. The nights going to bed with a pain in the stomach because of food deprivation is all real. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how fast he went up them climbs. History's edited him out.
Well, because he broke the rules of the system. He wasn't proud to be enhanced. He was afraid.
But widely, that's acknowledged that everyone who was doping then, to go back to those years and try and find a clean Tour de France, you have to go so far down that GC, but still nobody cares. Nobody thinks he's the champion.
Yeah, because they were lying, right? If Lance Armstrong went out there and stood on the Champs-Élysées under the Arc de Triomphe and said, 2 years ago I was dying of cancer, and I'm back here on the podium as the greatest cyclist in the world, thanks to EPO, it would have been the Ozempic of the early 2000s. It would have been the category-defining drug and created $1 trillion market overnight.
Thanks for watching, Roadman. Take 1 second, click up here to subscribe to the channel, and click down here where there's another video I know you'll love. See you next day.